How many people can actually afford to buy one Bitcoin? That's a big milestone in cryptocurrency, is to become a whole coiner, having one full Bitcoin. And that's becoming increasingly difficult as time goes on. As the price of Bitcoin continues to move up, it becomes more unrealistic for people to ever hit one full Bitcoin. Some people will never hit zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. As hard as they may try, the price might get away from them. But today I want to talk about how many people will actually be able to hit that one Bitcoin mark. And we're going to look at it a variety of different ways. Based on net worth, how many people could buy right now? Based on income, if you were starting right now, how many people could actually buy a Bitcoin? And then take a look at how much Bitcoin is left on exchanges. Look at how much Bitcoin is actually available out there. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification to see future videos just like this one as soon as I release them. I'm pumped. This is like the fourth or fifth video I've made today. We're back in the bull season. If you want to get alpha, if you want to see videos as soon as I publish them, you can hit that subscribe button. Like I said, hit the bell notification. One crypto that I've talked about a lot recently that I've been saying that I'm getting big into, even though I think Bitcoin's going to go up, this is really the one altcoin that I've been piling into. CeDeFi, it's spiking. It's up 15% here today at the highest point that's been in over a year. So if you want to know when I'm buying stuff like that before everyone on YouTube, you can check out the Patreon. Also, if you want to see my trades, we're up 56%. I announced this to the Patreon as well. This is over on Blofin. I did a 4x long on Bitcoin, so a little bit riskier than holding spot, but not extremely risky with my liquidation price under $26,000. Now I'm up 56%. So there's a link to Blofin underneath the video, along with a link to Margex as well, in case you want to trade over there. Neither of these have KYC, and neither of them require a VPN. I've seen a lot of people start to join up. They want to get in on this bull market, and this is one thing that you can do to amplify your returns, especially when we're moving up. Now, Bitcoin is an asset that a lot of people are starting to look at. We have institutions buying. We have miners not willing to sell, a lot of them. We have Fidelity, BlackRock, all these ETFs trying to set up, or all these companies trying to set up ETFs for the next bull run to allow pensions to buy easier, to allow retirement accounts to start buying Bitcoin, or retirees to start buying Bitcoin. They're going to push their financial advisors to have you buy Bitcoin. And over the last couple of weeks, people have really dug into this narrative. Some people are talking about how Bitcoin could hit 120,000 this year. Some people are talking about 500,000, a mega cycle. We get all types of price targets, but one thing that a lot of people want is to be able to hit that one Bitcoin mark, be able to buy one Bitcoin one day, have a whole coin. And of course, that is mostly arbitrary, right? If you have 0.99 Bitcoin or 1.01 Bitcoin, there's not a huge difference there. But that is a huge milestone for a lot of people. Now, today I want to talk about how likely that is for most people to hit. How many people will actually be able to hit one Bitcoin? And let me tell you this, it's not very many. Right now, I will say, there is about 19.5 million Bitcoin out there in circulation. Keep in mind, many of these are lost. You can go look and you can see the Bitcoin that's been dormant for 5 years, 10 years. All that information is public. I've talked about it in prior videos. Now, a lot of it, like I said, is lost. 3-4 million estimated to be lost. More is lost all the time. Keep in mind, there will be a time where there's less mined than what's being lost each day. By 2060, we're going to have less than one Bitcoin mined a day. People are going to lose more than that. Collectively, we're going to lose more than one Bitcoin a day, sending it to the wrong address, losing our keys, that kind of thing. Keep in mind, a lot of people just aren't willing to sell, too. We're going to be going through it, but a lot of people just aren't willing to sell. There are addresses that have 10,000 Bitcoin. There are people that hold 50,000 Bitcoin, 100,000 Bitcoin. They don't care. They think selling to cash is idiotic. They think, why would I buy cash when it's depreciating all the time? And I can just sit in Bitcoin forever. I can pay for things in Bitcoin. I can hold all my wealth in Bitcoin. So keep in mind, this is becoming harder. And as the price goes up, it becomes more and more unrealistic to buy one Bitcoin. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we were at 17,000, 20,000. Now we've rallied up 150% from the bottom. How many people lost their chance forever to buy a full Bitcoin? And keep in mind, you can dollar cost average. A lot of people might say, well, of course I can't buy a full Bitcoin. It costs $42,000. But you can dollar cost average. You can buy a little bit at a time. Now, I want to look at, this is specifically in the US. Maybe I can do this in a future video with other countries. But if you were going to start from zero, if you're going to start right now, if you are a new investor, how many people would actually be able to buy a full Bitcoin? Like, how realistic is that, depending on how much you actually make? So I looked at the top 20% of US families in terms of income, and then the median household income as well. So the average salary, or the average income for the median family, I should say the median family income, not the average, but the median family income is $80,000. The top 20% is right around $150,000. Found that from the percentage distribution of household income in the United States. This is as of last year from Statista. So obviously, top 20% have more disposable income. They can probably invest more too. We're going to assume that the savings rate is somewhere around 10%. I think that's high for the median US family, but we're going to assume it's 10%. And we're going to assume that for the top 20% of incomes, you can save or invest 20%. Now, that's kind of arbitrary, right? Some people will be able to invest more. Some people will be able to invest less, but we're going to go with those numbers. So every year, the amount saved or invested is around $8,000 in this example for the median US family, and $30,000 for a top 20%, top 20 income family. Now, how long would it take you to buy one Bitcoin if you just went all into Bitcoin, right? You just continue to pile money into Bitcoin. This is at today's prices. It would take 5 years for the median family to buy, and for the top 20% income, it would take 1.33 years. Now, what if we actually took into account that not everyone is going to put all their money into Bitcoin, right? Like, if you're saving 20%, you're probably not going to put all your money into Bitcoin for 5 years straight. You're probably going to put some in a Roth IRA or a 401k, or you're going to save in some other way, invest in some other thing. So if you did a 20% allocation, then it would take you 25 years for the median US family and 6.7 years for a top 20% family. Keep in mind, that's without the price moving up. So what if the price actually moves up? Because it usually moves up. Goes down 1 year and then up 3 years. And it usually, like I said, it's always in the past moved up from cycle to cycle. So assuming a 40% price appreciation, which I think is pretty cautious, that would put us at about $300,000 from Bitcoin for Bitcoin by 2030 based on today's prices. I think that is conservative, but if we assume a 40% annual increase, and we're just going to say straight exponential, it's not like up, down, and you're not timing it, you would never be able to get a full Bitcoin. Even if you invested this entire $8,000, the fact is the price just runs away from you. You can't buy it if you only can save $8,000. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't still invest in Bitcoin if you can never get a full Bitcoin. Keep in mind, half a Bitcoin is going to be better than no Bitcoin down the road. And then with price appreciation, well, it takes a little bit longer, maybe 1.4 years, 1.5 years for a family in the top 20% if they're investing their entire $30,000. Keep in mind, that's just like investing most of it right now at $40,000 and then most of it at $55,000 or whatever that would be a year from now. So you're still able to do that if you are a higher income earner, or you can invest $30,000 in a year. That kind of makes sense. But if you do a 20% allocation, you still will never be able to invest. Even if you're this high income earner, you're never going to be able to invest enough to buy a full Bitcoin because you're only investing $6,000 a year, which is actually less than this scenario where someone's investing $8,000. So you'll never be able to hit whole coiner status. So even the top 20, if you're not putting a good amount of your money towards Bitcoin, you're never going to be able to get it. In this scenario, let me run the number. In this scenario, how much would you actually need to invest each year if Bitcoin's price is going to continue to go up? And this all was accounting for increases in pay to a 5%. So in this scenario, you'd have to invest about $10,500 if Bitcoin was going to continue to appreciate by 40% a year. You need to invest that amount to ever be able to hit whole coiner status, and you would be getting there over a decade from now. So that's just kind of nuts, right? So most people will not be able to invest enough if they don't go fully into Bitcoin or put 30, 40, 50% of their savings rate into Bitcoin. And really, I should clarify that that's even the wealthy people, even the people that are making a lot of income. The median US family will never be able to get a full Bitcoin unless you go off of net worth. So that was assuming that you were starting from zero. But what if you already have a nest egg? What if you already have some money and you want to put it towards Bitcoin? Well, let's assume that you have 5% liquidity in your entire net worth. Keep in mind, a lot of people might have money in retirement accounts or in their home or in cars, etc. So other things that they can't flow into Bitcoin. Now, maybe down the road, when a spot ETF is approved, you could count this as part of your Bitcoin. If you moved your retirement account, part of it into GBTC, let's say. Or you could do it even if you bought MicroStrategy or CleanSpark. You could say, okay, they hold this much Bitcoin or they mine this much Bitcoin. I'm going to assume that that's about equivalent. Now, here, I took a look not at income, but again, net worth from here. This is from census.gov. So how many people could actually buy? Okay, let's take a look at the average net worths of people. Again, this is in the US. My viewers are usually in the US. And let's take a look at how much they could actually buy. So if you're in the 10th percentile, you have zero net worth or less than zero. You're negative. A lot of people have negative net worth. 25th percentile, so bottom quarter, net worth of about 16.5 thousand. Now this isn't based on age, this is just overall. About the midpoint, $167,000. 75th, you have about $600,000. 90th percentile has about 1.6 million. So if you have over 1.6 million, you're top 10% of people that they surveyed. So assuming there's 5% liquidity, the amounts that are actually available are here. So would you be able to buy one full Bitcoin if you tried to go right now? Unless you're in the top 10%, you wouldn't be able to. Now, if you had $1 million, you would have enough. If you had 800,000, that would be right at the cutoff point. Again, this is kind of an arbitrary 5% liquidity, but I do think that's probably representative of most people in the US. Now, of course, if you get into the higher net worth brackets, you probably have more liquid net worth because a lot of these people have had time to invest over time. They probably have successful careers or businesses. Some of these might just be from house appreciation too. Like if you bought a house in California 5-10 years ago, maybe most of your net worth is in your house, for example. So it's hard to tell exactly where people hold all their net worth. A lot of people hold it in their homes though. And keep in mind, if Bitcoin continues to rally up, if we hit $80,000, then that's kind of the cutoff point. That's where 5% liquidity would not be enough for people in the top 10%. $80,000 Bitcoin, if they moved 5% of their net worth over, that would be about one full Bitcoin. So that even gets difficult. Now let's go to the Bitcoin rich list. The Bitcoin rich list is really interesting. It shows you all the wallets in Bitcoin and how much they hold, what percentage of the overall coins they hold, etc. So let's take a look at these lines down here. Wallets with more than one Bitcoin. There are about 1,021,000 wallets that have over one Bitcoin. Keep in mind, that doesn't mean that there are 1 million people that hold one Bitcoin because a lot of people do have multiple wallets. If I were to guess, it'd be closer to maybe 500,000 or less. About half that. If the average person has two wallets, which I think is a good guess, that would be about the case. Now, they also hold 92.78% of all Bitcoin out there. That's a huge amount. The majority of Bitcoin is held by wallets with more than one Bitcoin. The majority of that is people that hold 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin. They hold 24% of all Bitcoin. That's kind of nuts. A lot's held by 10 to 100 as well. And a lot is also held by 100 to 1,000. You can see over here how much they actually hold. 23%, 20%, 24%. Now, there are more people that have small amounts of Bitcoin. There are more wallets that are small because there just aren't that many people that can afford one Bitcoin. So, like I said, most of the wallets only 1.7% of wallets have 1 Bitcoin to 10 Bitcoin. Only about 2% of overall wallets have more than 1 Bitcoin. The rest have less. So again, it's hard to tell how many people actually hold 1 Bitcoin. If I were to guess, like I said, it would be about 500,000. Now, let's move over to here. Some interesting numbers for you to look at for how many people could buy Bitcoin based on how much is actually left. Okay, there are about 1,021,000 Bitcoin addresses that have 1 Bitcoin. There are about 60,000 millionaires in the world. So really, there are a lot of people that if they had 5% of their net worth liquid, they could buy Bitcoin at today's prices. The problem is there's not enough Bitcoin on exchanges. There's only about 2,045,000 Bitcoin on exchanges. 2 years ago, this was 2.7 million. So the change per year, the delta per year, is about negative 327,000, which means at this rate, if we were going to continue to drain Bitcoin off exchanges, it would last for about 6.2 years. So the problem is there aren't that many people that can actually go buy a full Bitcoin. If 10,000 people were to go buy a full Bitcoin, it would push up the price. If 100,000 were going to go buy 1 Bitcoin, it would shoot up the price. There's also not that much Bitcoin to go around. And while we do see the number of wallets that hold 1 Bitcoin continue to skyrocket, keep in mind some people are just spreading out how many wallets they have. And it's starting to taper off, in my opinion. Now, MicroStrategy just said that they bought $600 million worth of Bitcoin, increased holdings by 10%. So this is just one of their buys this year. They bought 16,130 Bitcoin. So they took the opportunity away from 16,000 people to become whole coiners. They also said that they were going to clear up some more money to buy up to $750 million more. This one company holds 175,000 Bitcoin. And they're not even that large a company. Sure, they're multi-billion dollars, but there are 500 companies in the S&P 500 that are their size or bigger. So there are a lot of companies that could buy a ton of Bitcoin. There are countries now that are talking about buying Bitcoin. The fact is there's not much to go around. So while price might go up and down, you have to remember long term, there aren't going to be that many people that are actually able to get to that whole coiner status, that glorified whole coiner status. So if you're able to get there, great. Again, it is slightly arbitrary. So if that is too aggressive for you, for your investment style, for your portfolio, that's fine. You don't have to get to 1 Bitcoin. If you're never going to hit 1 Bitcoin based on your current situation, that's okay. All you can do is stack as much as you can and make sure that you're actually comfortable with that. Of course, not everyone can have a full Bitcoin. That's just how it works out. But keep in mind that there are ways to increase your income. So hopefully one day you might be able to get to that 1 Bitcoin. To be clear, I think there are about 500,000 people that have Bitcoin right now that have a full Bitcoin. Now, I think that it's possible for about 1 million people to have whole coiner status. Keep in mind, large entities that have been accumulating Bitcoin might sell one day, but anyone that has 5,000 Bitcoin, 10,000 Bitcoin, 100,000 Bitcoin, they probably don't need the money. Like a lot of them are companies. What are they going to do? Sell the fiat and then just hold all that fiat on their balance sheet? Like what would MicroStrategy do? They sell all their Bitcoin and they just sit on $5 billion. They would have so many people sell because they would just realize that they don't have a plan anymore. They're not going to get any alpha anymore if they're just sitting in cash. Also, there are a lot of people that have thousands of Bitcoin that will never sell because they don't need to. So I think there are about 500,000 people that maybe have it now. We could get to 1 million. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think it will stop probably at 600,000. There might be 1.5 million addresses one day that ever hold 1 Bitcoin. But even that I think is unlikely. If I had to give an actual guess based on my gut, I'd say it's closer to 1.2, maybe 1.3 million addresses that will ever hold that amount. And that means about maybe 600,000 people will ever have 1 Bitcoin. Let me know your thoughts though underneath the video. Now, if you want to trade Bitcoin, you can check out the links to Blofin and to Margex in the description underneath the video. It's not right for everyone, but these are awesome platforms. Margex, you can use all different kinds of collateral to trade all different kinds of assets. So I can use XRP to trade Pepe, to trade Shiba, to trade XRP, to trade Bitcoin. Margex also has something called an MP shield, which protects you from being liquidated by people that are trying to push around the price of Bitcoin just to liquidate you, or other assets as well. Blofin also is doing a big giveaway. When you use the link underneath the video, you can get an iPhone. They have some of the most trading pairs out there. Like they have 200 plus trading pairs, and they're adding quickly. So if you want a lot of flexibility in what you do, you can go check Blofin as well. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Let me know how many people you think can buy Bitcoin. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.